Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Presence Podcast, where I get to interview the most interesting and influential people in real estate. My guest today is Bonneau Ansley, who is the founder of Ansley Real Estate Brokerage in Atlanta and the best-selling author of Brokering Billions. Not only is Bonneau the youngest agent in Georgia to ever reach $1 billion in career sales, but he's also been able to successfully scale his brokerage to over 400 agents and to completing $6 billion in transactions since opening in 2015. In this conversation, we talk about how he's overcome dyslexia and ADHD, the secrets behind his rapid rise, and the lessons learned scaling his brokerage. Please enjoy this inspiring episode with one of the country's most accomplished real estate professionals. All right, welcome. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is a great podcast and one that I listen to. So I'm psyched to be here. Thank you.
That's great. Well, thank you. So you are at the top of your market in Atlanta. You've sold over $6 billion worth of real estate in your career. You have 400 agents in your brokerage. And by reading your book, which we'll talk about in a second, it's clear to me that your path to getting to where you are wasn't always easy. And you've had to overcome some obstacles. So I want to start by asking you about some of the more challenging times in the early parts of your life and career. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'll go way back. Golly, let's start in school. I mean, I went to almost every school in Atlanta. And when there was no more options, I was at boarding school in 7th grade. And school was a struggle for me. I didn't fit in any type of learning box that they put out there for anybody. I learned outside the box. But I'll tell you, a light bulb came off when I was about a junior in high school, and I was creative, and I started making T-shirts and making hats and selling them. And I was like, man, I can sell things. I love to sell.
Yeah.
And I started selling a lot of stuff and having a lot of cash on hand. And I'm like, man, I'm going to be a salesman. I'm going to be okay. I don't need to make straight A's. And, got into University of Georgia by the skin of my teeth. I think I was the 6th generation to get in there. I think they had to let me in. But once in, I started to major in real estate in the business school there. And I was like, man, school's pretty cool. And these classes are pretty cool. And this is what you can do in real estate, and you have to deal with people. And I started to make great grades, and I got my real estate license early on in college. And right out of college, I rushed out to be a salesman. And I didn't want to work in Atlanta. That's where my family was. I wanted to kind of learn my craft somewhere else. So I moved to Savannah, Georgia, and I started selling properties, probably a 21, 22-year-old at the Ford Field and River Club. And what was cool about selling there is I would get somebody that would pull into the development off of a billboard off I-95, and they'd come in, and I'd usually have about 2 hours with them, and I'd put them in the car. And, I had to learn to sell a dream. Like, golly, guys, you could move here and build your dream house and learn how to fly fish over here or learn how to kayak here, and you can go shooting over here and whatever. I try to catch a nerve with somebody, right? And try to say, oh God, yeah, I can see myself doing that. This is great. And in a 2-hour time span, I had to figure out what opportunity or what special situation I could throw at them to say, oh, this is your lot. And by the way, this is a phenomenal lot because somebody just moved from this lot to a lot on the river, and today's your lucky day. We hadn't even put it back on the market yet. And, learning those sales skills early on and having somebody sign with coming off the highway from a billboard, coming in, and you got 2 hours, and before they leave, they got to sign on the dotted line, because when they were gone, man, they were gone. Yeah. So I learned early on that that's what I wanted to do. And when I'd sell a lot, I'd introduce them to a builder, and the builder would then take that same dream and build them a house. And when a new development was going on across the Savannah River in a place called Palmetto Bluff, I negotiated a deal when I was probably 24, 25 years old to take out, I think it was 40 lots around what they perceived as the core village, and structured a deal where I didn't have to pay for it all up front. I paid them, a portion of the lot cost, and then they subordinated the rest because they wanted product built. So then I worked to deal with the builder to build a bunch of product, and that all went really, really good till it didn't, right? And during that time, everything was great. And we had built our dream house in Savannah, Georgia. And my wife was 9 months pregnant. We were a couple of weeks away from having our first kid. And, unbelievably, our house blew up, right? The lightning hit our chimney and our gas line. And the house that we built for 2 years blew up, and we lost everything that we owned. So at that moment, that's a major life change. And we started off at the top of the curve. And in my book, Brokering Billions, I talk about the curves in life. And, everything was going really, really good until it wasn't. House burns down. But that made us to have the opportunity to move to Atlanta, Georgia, and start developing in Atlanta, which I never would have done if the house hadn't burned down. And then we were on top of the curve. We were developing a bunch of stuff until the music stopped in 2008. Right? Lehman Brothers collapsed. I had 23 beautiful townhomes on Peachtree Road, and nobody came to closing. So when that happened, right, I came from having a big ego and being a young developer to really like losing a lot financially in that, major real estate crisis and having to start over. And I started over as a real estate agent. And that kind of happened at the bottom of the curve again. And I did that just because when we sold that asset, it wasn't really an asset, but when we sold that property, the buyer of it said, look, I'm only going to buy this if you sell it. And I said, well, I'm not going to sell it, man. I'm a developer. I'm a big time developer. And he kind of looked at me and said, hey, you're not that good of a developer, right? You just lost X amount millions of dollars, but I want you to sell it. So in 2009, I started as being a real estate agent again, after being a developer for many years, and started to sell real estate. And I found a passion and an obsession in becoming the best of the best in my market in Atlanta, Georgia, selling real estate. And, that's taken me on a journey that's been very wild and very cool, to starting a company 7, 8, 9 years ago, Ansley Real Estate. And from there, we ended up being Ansley Christie's International Real Estate. And I still sell property, which I absolutely love to do. I love the interaction with people.
Yeah. And it's an amazing story. Thanks for sharing that. I read somewhere that in your first year as an agent in Atlanta, you did 16 million and you were the number one agent. How did you do that?
Well, 16 million, right, in today's world with the listeners out there is not that much, right? I mean, how are you number one? Well, in 2009, nobody was selling anything. The first day when I walked into my old brokerage, they had a scoreboard in the conference room, and the scoreboard showed what everybody's volume was, and everybody was ranked. The top 30 agents in the company were ranked. And I went to the assistant marketing director and I said, hey, at the end of the year, I want to be number one on that board. And she looked at me, she said, well, isn't this your first day? And I said, yeah, I need you to help me market myself, brand myself. And she didn't say no. She said, well, we got a lot of work to do. And at that moment, everything that I did in life was about getting on top of that board. And I became obsessed with it. I mean, I would have put a tattoo on my forehead that said, I sell real estate, right? But I made people that I came in contact with multipliers for me. I added them to my team, but they weren't paid team members, right? They were the bartender at the restaurant. They were the valet guy. Every time I'd see the valet guy, I'd give him a couple $100 and I'd say, hey, the next 10 expensive cars that come in here, Mercedes, Porsches, Ferraris, make sure that my brochure of my available houses and my business card is in their passenger seat, right? The guy cutting hair in Atlanta, right? Anytime somebody's talking about moving or relocating or whatever, in the barber chair, make sure you tell them about your friend Bonneau, and I had all these multipliers or these extra team members all over town. And I did that right when I started in real estate. And I continue to do that today. And that team has grown. That cast of multipliers have grown. Now I make sure that divorce attorneys are on my team, or investment advisors are on my team, or accountants are on my team, and make sure that they know when they hear somebody that's talking about buying or selling real estate, that they make sure they give a shout out to Bonneau and give my contact information and make a warm introduction. So I think that for agents out there that are just starting in the business, creating that framework around you that are your support staff is so highly important if you want to scale, And after that year of doing 16 million, I made sure to double my business every single year. And that was very challenging. But if you start at 16 million and the next year you're going to do 40 million, you got to take everything you did the year before and break it, right? That quote, if it's not broken, break it, right? So every year we started over. And if we continue to do the same thing we did the year before, what are we going to have? The same results, right? So we had to keep doubling down, and we had to act like a $40 million producer on January 1st to end the year at 40 million, right? And then January 1st of next year, if we're going to be an $80 million producer or a $100 million producer, we had to build a team around being a $100 million producer starting the year before.
Yeah.
And I did that and did that and did that. And then I came to a year where I had the same production volume the year before, which was $175 million.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, I'm not growing. So that was the year that I left my brokerage and I started what was known as Ansley Atlanta Real Estate. And we had Atlanta in there just because we wanted to be everything for Atlanta. And then we were able to start doubling and 3Xing every year, year after year after year. And last year we did, I don't know, $3.3 billion in sales. We've got 10 offices and 430 agents around Georgia. We ended up taking out the Atlanta name and it became Ansley Real Estate. And then I'll tell you how we got into Christie's later on.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about that decision to start the brokerage. But before I do, is it true that you've never made a cold call? And I ask because so many coaches would, totally disagree with that approach. But clearly you found something. And it seems like referrals from folks in the area where that was your number one way of getting new clients.
That's my thing. Yeah. I've never knocked on a door. I mean, I continue to do massive amounts of print marketing, right? So that's kind of cold, right? But actually making a cold call, I haven't done. I always try to get a warm referral. And I treat my past clients really, really, really well. I mean, I treat my past clients where, they think that I'm part of their inner circle, and I am part of their inner circle. And, 5 years after the sale, 10 years after the sale, I sure do make sure that they still know who I am. And they make sure when they know that somebody's buying or selling that they make it a point to make sure that they at least try to use Bonneau.
Yeah. So 2015, you make the decision to start your own brokerage. How did you know it was the right time and that was the next right step for you to take?
Well, for entrepreneurs out there, there's never a good time, right? If you're waiting, you're going to be waiting for a long time. You've just got to use your gut. And if you believe in yourself, you can go ahead and start whenever the time is right. And who knows when the time's right. But for me, it was that time where I wasn't growing anymore as a real estate agent. And I needed that growth to fire me up when I wake up in the morning. So timing's never right. You just got to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and put everything in your life into it. I hear about life-work balance. When you're starting a business, and when I started a business in 2015 and went on 2016, 2017, starting this business, there wasn't any work-life balance, right? I was completely dedicated to my craft and of selling, and then to creating a platform at Ansley Atlanta where other agents wanted to work under. And not until, a few years ago, now I've got a great work-life balance because I've set my team up both at the company and both within my individual team where I sell real estate to work for my schedule. And that's been a really, really good thing. And when you create a team out there, y'all, you got to know what you're good at and what you're bad at. And I'm bad at most everything, right? But I have been able to, and I write a lot about this in the book, to turn my perceived liabilities into my greatest assets. So by being ADD, which is one thing that you probably don't want to be as a young lad in school, being able to sell, $450 million of property, you got a lot of different things going on. You got a lot of things you're juggling throughout the day. And actually being ADD is a wonderful asset to have if you're using it correctly, right? And then from being dyslexic as well, being able to think differently from a marketing standpoint and do things differently and not follow the herd, that's also been a great gift for me. But I'll always say that I'm really smart enough to know how dumb I am, right? So when you think about that, I'm not going to be doing the contract work and the marketing copy, right, that's going to be out there because I don't spell real well, right? But I put people in position on my specific team Bonneau, that are the best and the best at, writing contracts. They might be a paralegal, right? That's on my team, right? And from a marketing standpoint, there might be an English major, right? To make sure that my vision of the copy turns out on print that's really eloquent and works really, really well.
Yeah. And in the book, you talk about that in quite a lot of detail, all of the steps that you and your team go through for every transaction. And one of the things that I found interesting is how much attention you pay to the details and have your team pay to the details, and how you find ways to make small moments different and unique for the client. Can you give me and the listeners just some examples of moments where you've been able to create a client experience that's elevated and different?
Well, there's 26,000 agents in Atlanta as we sit here today, and everybody knows a real estate agent. So how are you going to differentiate yourself to actually be able to put your sign in their yard, right? And your name's in front of their house. That means you're really connected to those people that you're selling, right? So you have to really, really stand out. And I think we do that with a variety of different things. I had a Braves baseball player call me, and he said, "But no, I just got traded. And I'm moving out of my house next week, and I need to sell it immediately." And he moved all his stuff out, and we had a vacant house. And I ended up calling a friend that owned an art gallery. And I said, "Hey, we got an opportunity with this beautiful vacant house to have a party. It needs to be shown." And he brought in a couple $1 million worth of art. He invited all of his past clients that have spent over $10,000, $15,000 with him. And then I invited my roll of people that were well-heeled in the Atlanta area. I then partnered with Maserati to bring cars out there so people could test drive cars and come look at art. And the person that bought that house was somebody that was there for the art and wasn't even in the market for a house at that time. And you just got to, think really, really big, and you don't have to do stuff that other people have done. I've made all kinds of mistakes throughout my career, but all those mistakes have made me better and better. I also think that we're in a very unusual part of the market right now. This market is tough. I mean, I think that the United States will probably sell 4 million houses this year. They've been selling 8 million plus houses per year, right? We don't have inventory. I think that I speak to everybody that's listening to this, right? You don't have inventory to sell. This is the best time in the world for real estate agents to sharpen their skills and prepare themselves for when the market comes back. There's going to be a lot of people that leave and aren't going to be real estate agents over the next 12 months. This is the time for the top 10% to really, really shine. And if you want to be an agent in the top 10%, this is your time to really go after it. You might not make a bunch of money over the next 12 months, but you can set yourself up to really, really, really scale when that market comes back.
Yeah. Really amazing advice. This is the time to plant a lot of seeds.
It is. Yeah. And also when you're planting seeds, don't just do it in the business side, right? It's how you do anything is how you do everything. So it's a time to kind of take that motto, and everything that you do, make sure that you're doing it to the highest quality. I mean, go into the details on how you leave your voicemail message. Do you say, "Hey, it's Sarah, leave me a really brief message and I'll call you back whenever I can, but it's not going to be after 5 p.m. and it'll probably be sometime tomorrow." What a terrible message. I'm not even going to leave a message for Sarah, right? Leave a message that says, "Hey, thank you so much for calling. This is Bonneau with Ansley Real Estate. Leave me as long a message as you can because it's highly important to me, and I'm going to call you back at my first opportunity." Now, you get a message like that from somebody, you're going to be like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to leave this guy or gal a message." Set the tone up front on everything that you do. When you're at a restaurant, man, make sure that you look the waiter in the eye and shake his hand and say, "Man, thanks for doing this. It's going to be a great night." In terms of everything that you do, make sure that you're elite, right? And that falls back into business. And then you have a lifestyle that way if you want to do big things.
Yeah. So you've grown the brokerage now to over 400 agents, and agent retention is a huge topic for anyone who owns a brokerage, right? What have you found works best when it comes to attracting and then retaining the best talent?
Yeah, retention is great. People don't talk a lot about retention. They talk about recruiting. We're always recruiting. We're recruiting our current agents to stay. And there's always a shinier penny out there in the marketplace. But if you stay consistent and have wonderful tech, we spend a lot of time with our ownership group now with tech. And they've developed a platform called Platform and that has the CRM, that has the deal management system where you can do quick marketing, and being able to have a collaborative system with your agents and provide great training throughout is something that's highly important for retention. That also is highly important for recruiting.
Yeah, well said. And this is the perfect segue because Platform is integrated with Luxury Presence and our websites, meaning leads can flow through. And I know you and your agents have several websites with us. So I want to ask about that experience. What has it been like working with our team, and what benefits do you see from using Luxury Presence?
Luxury Presence was a game changer. I have several websites built by Luxury Presence, and I've got to say that I've designed a bunch of websites that weren't Luxury Presence, and they've taken 2x the time that they were supposed to. And that cost is a lump sum that you pay for somebody to do that. And then when you do that, guess what? The maintenance of that website's gone. Agents need to be able to change their websites as much as they can. Their numbers go up, their listings, their approach, everything changes, right? And you need to have a great approach. What I love about Luxury Presence is starting on the cost side of it. You don't pay anything to design this great website. It's a monthly maintenance fee. How good is that, really? Because you can continue to change your website as needed as your business changes, right? I had Luxury Presence design my website for Brokering Billions, my book, and that constantly changes. We just came out on Audible. Now we've got an Audible link, within that website and everything else. And I can't tell you out there how awesome it's been to be with Luxury Presence.
Thank you. It's great to hear. And congrats to you on the book. I know it's your first one and it's already a bestseller on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So really incredible for the listeners out there. Go check it out. It is a really great book. I've read it over the last couple of weeks and couldn't put it down. And can you share with the agents out there, since I know a motivation of yours writing this book was to give back to the real estate community, what's the main thing you want people to take away from reading the book?
I think that if you're a parent and you get the call from a teacher with one of your kids in third grade and says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Your kid is dyslexic, or your kid's hyperactive, or your kid's a spaz." It doesn't matter. You just got to put that kid in a position to succeed, right? And when you look at me and going through everything that I've gone through school-wise, there's a lot of different ways. You've just got to put yourself in the position to succeed with your certain skill set. And if you can marry your passion with your skill set, it's not work. And you're going to be in a position to succeed for the rest of your life. If you're put in a box and you're not supposed to be in that box, you're going to feel suffocated and it's going to be awful, right? So put yourself in a position to succeed. What I'm most proud about is being able to watch our agents and put them in a position to change that agent's life. It might be a single mother. It might be, who knows what it is, but they're coming into us and they're selling a few houses a year, and they come to start with our systems and they're able to buy their first house or send their kids to private school or join the country club, whatever their goals are, right? I get so satisfied by watching them do that. And then aside from the people that work for me at Team Bonneau or work for Ansley Real Estate, do you remember when we started this session and I told you my first day in 2009, I met with the assistant marketing director of a local office. She was there for 19 years. I called her when we started Ansley Real Estate and I said, "Guess what? You're going to be our first employee." And she said, "Oh my God, I've been in this place for 19 years. I'm not going to leave to go with a startup." I said, "You're going to be so huge. Take a leap of faith. I'm going to give you the responsibility, not task, but the responsibility to change the marketing, to be the chief people officer, to be the chief marketing officer, to create the brand in your mind that you want to create for Atlanta, Georgia." She has completely thrived, and she's been with me for 9 years now. And now she does all of our marketing. She does all of our events. She does the business plans for agents at our office. And now she does a lot of work for Christie's International Real Estate on a global scale. And she came from being an assistant marketing director at an individual office. And now she's running major, major stuff, right? So invest in people. When you find that person that has incredible skill, you might not have a role for them at this moment. Go ahead and hire them and then grow into that role for that superstar.
I love it. Where can people find a book and where can they connect with you online?
So you can go to Audible and go get Brokering Billions. You can go to Amazon or wherever else to buy the book. And I'd love to hear your feedback. And if you've taken some nuggets out of the book that's changed the way that you do business or life, I'd love to hear about it. And you can email me at bonoansley.com. And of course, you can always follow me on Instagram at Bono Ansley Realtor on Insta.
Amazing. Everyone, go check out the book. That's great. What's next for you? Are there any projects that you're particularly excited about that are coming up in the next months or years?
What's exciting about me is continuing to grow in Georgia. What's exciting about me with an ownership group that I'm involved with Christie's International Real Estate, is growing the Christie's brand across the world. I think that Christie's International Real Estate is a phenomenal brand. And I think that the technology and leveraging all these amazing independent companies around the world is so fun to do. I'm super psyched about that. And I'm excited that we're able to have agents lean in on this market. Go ahead and spend money on the website, guys. Go ahead and get your email marketing done. Go ahead and do the things that you put on the back burner, because we've all been so busy in 2020, 2021, and 2022. 2023 and 2024 is to get your game in order so you can go crush it, change lives, and find amazing properties for your clients.
Well said. On that note, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Very much appreciate it.
Had a blast. Thanks, guys.